Hey everyone. Okay, so we're out here today to deal with the issue of power out here. Now I got the permit, had that pulled for replacing this meter socket and the box that was below it, which has been not so gently removed by somebody who was basically, looks like, stealing it for the scrap. Anything copper is gone out here. Anything brass is gone out here. So I have to redo this box. Well, unfortunately, when they removed this, they broke the lugs and stuff off of here. So I had to replace this whole thing. And right now, it is extremely difficult to get parts and stuff like that, honestly, that are being used to replace this kind of stuff. It's just not in stock. Nobody has it. So I ended up going with an all-in-one unit that has the meter box and the breakers built into one. And that's what I put in the permit drawings and all that. Now, one of the things I'm going to do here is right now, this faces the wonderful trailer that we have here. What that means is whenever they come out to check the meter to figure out how much you're going to have to pay, they're going to have to come on property, come around here and read it. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to move this box around to the other side of the pole where it faces the street, which is that direction right there. That's going to allow them from the street to be able to do the meter reading and not have to bother coming all the way on the property and messing around, stuff like that. It should just make it a little bit easier for them. Now, this isn't difficult to do. We have this post here, and if you look up here, you know, we have all of the meter stuff up there. The service entrance up there is coming in, and basically I'm going to take this whole PVC, turn it around, and then put in the box. Now, I've been looking at different ways to do this because, especially with the other box and this all-in-one design, there's been some limitations, and that is that whenever I go to get parts, whenever I go to put stuff together to make this all work, it's like they're out of all of the other stuff you need. So I can get conduit from one place, but I can't get a 90-degree fitting, but I can get a straight fitting. If I go with, PVC, then there's a whole nother set of things that are going on. And not only that, what I discovered is I went ahead and did some rain tight, which is some flexible type stuff that I could have used very easily to do this, but the fittings for that get in the way of opening the breakers on the bottom of the box. So it's one of these things that we're going to have to work through some challenges here. But until then, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get this pole spun around over there. I'm building a backer. Like, you may notice that this is screwed directly to the pole. What I want to do is, I mean, we're here in Florida, we get hurricanes and stuff. But what I'd like to do is actually, I'm putting a piece of wood out here and some 2x4s to help strengthen it a little bit, to get it from twisting like this. And that's where I'm going to mount my outlets, which is what we're putting in here. So we're not wiring for the trailer. We're not doing any of that. This is essentially to get a 30 amp, 110 volt RV outlet and a GFCI and power to our well, which is a whole nother story, which we'll cover as well. But right now, I really just need to get this up and running. So that's what we'll be doing. So this is that combo box that I'm going to end up using. You can see here it's got a place for the meter and a cover right there. So the power comes in through the top here, comes out, goes to one side here, one side there, and then our neutral is back here, which runs down the bar. Okay, so this is a pretty easy setup. You have your service disconnect here. It's a 200 amp breaker. This is a 200 amp setup per the requirements of the power company. Then you have other breakers down here, and there's a couple missing because I was going to do something different with a quad breaker, but I don't know. Like I said, things are changing a little bit right now. But if I pull this off and set it aside, you'll see that this is a pretty simple little box. It's only got spots for the 4 breakers. You can do double breakers in here. In other words, there are things that have this size breaker And instead of being one circuit, there's actually 2 circuits on one breaker here, which is kind of nice, meaning you can double this up. You can also do them where there's a quad breaker that goes between these 2 legs, and it'll give you 220 out of the middle and 2 110s in 2 spots. So there's ways to do this. Again, we don't need a whole lot here. This is pretty straightforward. Now, where it does get a little tricky is down here. So, and by the way, this is the wood I'm going to end up mounting it on. But this is where all the outlets come out for the power. Now, again, I was going to use some of this. This is the liquid tight. It's very flexible. This stuff's really nice. It allows me, or would allow me, to come off of here and move it around a little bit nice and easy and make space on the board, which is going to be this area here that I'm cutting out. The problem is, this is the connector for the 3/4 inch up here, and it would go like in this hole here. Unfortunately, when I do that, I can't open the box anymore. So if I close this lid like so, if this is in there, it can't slide past right here. These ones down here are a little bit too small. These are probably only for a 1/2 inch. I don't think the 3/4 would fit on there. Plus, it would hit the wood behind it. So it's just another thing we're going to have to do. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to focus on getting this mounted on the wood over here. We're going to end up painting this wood just to protect it a little bit. I'm going to get the service entry stuff coming in, although I'm not going to connect it yet. There is no power on there. We've tested it. But we're going to bring it in through the top here using the existing stuff. Get everything set up where it will be. And then I'll come back and finish it up. But I'm going to get this mounted today and then figure out what I want to do about making this all work. Stay tuned. Okay, so I just wanted to show this in case you end up in these situations where you kind of go, man, I don't have the right tools to do this. Now, I have checked that there is no power to this multiple ways with my meter here, cross ground, cross everything, okay, just to make sure, again, and even confirmed it with the power company that it's disconnected at the pole. So I do not recommend doing this unless you are absolutely positively sure, especially with something like this that is uninsulated. But in this case, these bolts are what hold this together. So you can see here, this is one that I just took off. Has a little hook on it, and as you tighten these screws in, it screws in against the metal. You see it's on this one here. And on the right-hand side there's a little groove that it fits into. You can see it there too. So as you loosen it up, then you're able to actually remove these clamps completely. And that's going to come in real handy because this cable is extremely thick and stiff. It's very hard to work with. So when I end up pulling this, it's going to be a little bit easier. I'm going to separate here at the hub, right here, these 4 screws, and then be able to drop the thing down. But if I don't have them where I can get them kind of straight, it's not going to work so well for me. I've got the bottom screw out of this here, but there's one back here that I can't quite get to. It's kind of a chicken and the egg thing. But as I loosen up this hub, this whole box should then fall off. But in this case, I don't happen to have the right size socket for this. So what I've done is I can take a crescent wrench like this, and I can put in, this is just a pair of channel lock pliers like that. And let's see, sorry, this is gonna get a little rough for a second. I can simply use it to apply the twisting pressure. This is in case, like me, you don't happen to have a socket along. That's the right size for that. Now, when you do this, it has to be kind of centered on that bolt so that you're turning against it. This is how I got the back one undone. This can be successful, although it's not going to in this point. So in the case of this particular one, I fought with it quite a bit, and it ended up breaking off of the back here. It was just that tight and rusted. Now I broke it loose finally, and you can see here, I'm going to unscrew this quite a ways. I can now just pop it out there, and I have everything there. Now the black gooey stuff that's on there, that's some no-ox. Because this is aluminum cable, if it comes in contact with dissimilar metals, has a tendency to corrode. It causes corrosion. So that stuff there is actually to keep it from corroding. You can see in here, this is the ground lug. Because this is a main outdoor lug, your ground lug and your neutral are the same. It came down here, and then out of the box is where they cut it off and stole the rest of it. Pretty sure the ground rods are also gone. That just only makes sense because those are worth some money. So gonna have to rerun that stuff. But now that I have this stuff loose, I'm gonna go ahead and continue to get this one off if I can. But now that I have this loose and ready to go, well, it's time to separate this from the feed conduit here. Okay, so having nearly lost my sanity when I reached up to the top of this ladder to climb up it to get to the screws and stuff for this conduit, and when I reached up, I grabbed the top rung of the ladder, and something squishy started moving a lot under my hand. Turns out it was a lizard. And yeah, so I'm still kind of recovering from that at the heart level, but I did manage to take the time to get this unscrewed now. So basically what's happened is, I'll show you here. Okay, so I got this screw out, but turns out there's another screw above it right here that is apparently very stripped. It does not want to come out. So that means it left me a couple of options. One, I could go through the trouble of making sure I remove it right now. The other thing I did is instead I went and I removed the screws and the straps here on the service entrance. So now, if luck is on my side, I should, yeah, be able to separate it just like this, turn it around to the other side of the pole over there, and be able to put everything back together. So as you can see, this whole section kind of comes off as one. The cables will come out, and I can remove this box when I'm feeling like it. So that's a good thing. Okay, so let's start by being perfectly clear here. Yes, I grabbed the top rung of that ladder. Yes, a large squishy thing moved under my hands. And yes, I might have let out a little bit of a scream. I challenge you not to if the same thing happens to you out there where there are all kinds of crazy critters. You may have seen the spiders already. There's a few of them out there, right? Just kind of freaked me out. Just saying, withhold your judgment. Anyways, as you can see, there's a number of struggles here. And what happened is, ultimately, I didn't really get what I wanted done again. That's not really a big deal, though. It's something that we have to understand is going to happen here. Now, the hub that went up to the conduit for the service entrance, well, what a surprise. It didn't fit the new breaker box. So I was pretty much stalled at that point until I can get to the store and trade some stuff in. So that's exactly what I did. In part 2, we're going to kind of cover what I ended up doing about it and how everything got mounted and how I'm getting it ready for the inspector. So look for the electrical stuff, part 2. Thanks for joining us.